If you're looking for a few not so obvious tax sale money makers, this is the episode for you. Now, first off, before we get started, my name is Casey Denman. I've been investing in tax liens and tax deeds for well over 2 decades now, and I've been training others for more than a dozen years through my videos, books, and comprehensive training platform at taxsaleacademy.com. So we all love the idea of finding those golden opportunities that other investors might miss, right? Well, today I'm going to walk you through a few ways that you can uncover hidden tax sale deals that you can make quite a bit of money from when done correctly. Let's get straight to it. Now, these are just kind of in random order. The first one, we have to talk about vacant lots. Now, I know I've talked about this on plenty of episodes in the past, but that's for good reason. Most investors, especially new investors, tend to focus on houses or commercial properties, but they often overlook vacant lots. That's a huge mistake, because they can be absolute gold mines. For one, they have a very low barrier to entry. Depending on the area you're investing in, you can snag one for well under $3,000, and in some cases less than $1,000 or even $500 in very rural parts of the country. They also usually require very low holding cost and maintenance in most areas, and if you buy correctly, they're super easy to resell to builders, other investors, or speculators. No showings, no major inspections, no major issues, anything like that you have to worry about. Do your research, of course, but don't skip those vacant properties. I've made the majority of my money in this business through vacant land. It's simple, it's easy, and it can be extremely profitable. All right, the next thing, let's talk about zoning and land use codes. So different areas refer to these a little bit differently, but you'll typically find that zoning will be the overall classification of a property, something such as business, with the land use further defining that, something that might say a medical office. Now, this is something that so many people really never look at in the first place. They never research this. When you buy a property, especially land, understanding the zoning and land use regulations can make a huge difference in the value of that property. A lot that is on the edge of a residential area that just happens to be zoned commercial, that could mean an increase in value of 50% or more depending on the area. So when other bidders stop bidding because they've reached their max bid off of the perceived residential usage of that property, you can keep bidding and still make money. And in some areas, certain zoning or land use classifications are nearly impossible to get if you were to try to rezone something in the future. So for example, something like a multi-family zoning has a tremendous amount of value onto an otherwise typical residential lot. Do your homework on zoning codes and entitlements before the auction. Take the time to research this at the county level and see what their land development code says and compare it to the properties as you research them. There could be some hidden gems mixed in there that other people might overlook simply because they did not take the time to understand what the property could actually be used for. Next one, splitting parcels. And this is one of my favorite strategies for maximizing returns. Let's say you have a large parcel at a tax sale. One parcel that contains many different lots inside of it. A lot of investors will acknowledge it, say yes, it has a little bit of extra value because it is bigger than comparable properties nearby. 3 acres is worth more than a 1/4 acre, for example. But instead of taking that approach, you should investigate splitting up those lots and selling each one individually and how much value that will bring. Now, I've done this countless times over the course of my career. And outside of the few subdivisions that I have flipped, one of the biggest parcels I did this was with a 40-lot parcel. They were rural lots, so there's nothing fancy, but I surveyed them. I sent this information to the county, had them all split up, and I sold each one separately. So I bought one parcel and I sold 40 parcels. To this day, it was one of the most successful deals I've ever been involved with. The numbers on it are absolutely insane. Obviously, make sure you check with your county to see what they require, if they'll even allow it. But splitting parcels can be an absolute moneymaker when you do it correctly. Next one, On the flip side of that, let's talk about combining parcels. This is a great strategy in those areas where one lot by itself is not buildable and it has minimal value because of its size. But when you have two side-by-side lots and you combine them and they can become buildable, they'll become much more valuable. This is very common in rural areas and lots that are often sold as campsite lots or recreation type lots. I find that many of the delinquent taxpayers have purchased multiple lots side by side and have stopped paying taxes on all of them. So if you see this, snag both of them, combine them at the county, and boom, you suddenly have a much more valuable lot since it is now large enough to build on. Obviously, again, check with the county, check with their requirements to make sure they allow this, and perform your diligence to ensure that it wouldn't be unbuildable for other reasons like water or septic issues. Next one, OTC list, over the counter. These are properties that did not sell at an auction and are available for OTC buying, often at the amount of the back due taxes and fees that were owed on the property, or even less. The beauty of these lists is that you can find hidden gems that have flown under the radar if you know what you're looking for. If you know what you're doing, you can also create a near on-demand income stream based solely off of OTC investing. In fact, I've got a number of members inside the Tax Sale Academy who have done just that. Now, this is a much more research intensive and experience driven investment strategy than your typical tax sales. And what I usually tell people is most of the properties on this list will have some sort of issues. Unfortunately, many new investors do like the appeal of OTC investing without taking the learning side seriously first. My suggestion, learn, then do, especially when it comes to OTC investing. I actually have an entire class devoted on strategies for over-the-counter investing inside the Tax Sale Academy. It is called OTC class. And if you're a member of the Academy, it is in your member dashboard. It is well worth the cost of the Academy, considering I have students that have 50x'd their investment in the training using these OTC strategies alone. But once you figure it out, OTC is an absolutely unreal investment strategy. Next one, reselling tax liens. This is an overlooked moneymaker, and when done correctly, you can make a few bucks off of it. For many people, they would rather take a slightly smaller return in exchange for not having to learn how to buy tax liens, how to research those tax liens, and how to place the bids. So you as the investor would simply go in, buy some tax liens, turn right around and sell them, flip them to another investor that you find through online marketing methods. And you can even do this with OTC liens. And it's a really cool way to essentially line up your buyer, go buy some OTC liens, sell them the next day, and just cycle this over and over and over again. Now, you're not going to make loads and loads of money doing this. Sometimes the only return that you'll get back might be through whatever transaction fee you charge, which could be as low as $50 or $100. But I have members in the Tax Sale Academy that have systems set up for this, that are doing this in bulk, all without leaving their office a single time. They communicate through email, money comes in, some money goes out, and they keep the difference, and they're doing very well for themselves. It's a great way to create cash flow for yourself as a full-time gig or simply as another income stream. So there you have it, a few different ways to find some hidden tax sale deals and under-the-radar opportunities that other investors might miss. Hey, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please do me a huge favor. Leave a positive review, a 5-star rating, or a thumbs up wherever you're watching or listening to this episode at right now. And as always, if you would like additional training, make sure you check out our comprehensive training platform at taxsaleacademy.com. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time right here on the Tax Sale Podcast. Make it a successful day. Bye-bye.